I'll ask her.
First, Mataji, first Akshita will sing and then Anshuta will do kirtan. Is that
Yes,
okay?
Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Yeah, fine. Thank you for the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Mm. Anybody else wants to introduce?
Hare Krishna, Syama Gauri Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to Assembly. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji, Dandot Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you for joining, Mataji. Thank you for joining every day.
Hare Krishna, Syama Gauri Mataji, all glories Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Raleigh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandot Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you for joining, Mataji. Hare Krishna. There are a lot of devotees, but they don't want to introduce. Lalitangi Mataji, Lalita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot pranams to you and all the assembled devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Lalitangi Radha Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Lalitangi Mataji, Dandot Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you for joining, Mataji, and thank you so much for your wonderful services.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. My humble obeisances to everyone present on the call. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Pranita from Ashburn, Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Pranita Mataji, Dandot Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you for joining, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It is Dharmavatsala Das. Please accept my humble obeisances. I'm Dharmavatsala Das from Croatia. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Dharma Vatsala Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for joining, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Shamagauri Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Vrinda from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji, Dandot Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you for joining, Mataji, and thank you for your services. Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to introduce? Yeah. So, Mataji, is Akshita ready?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Akshita is going to sing Jai Radha Madhav now.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Jaya Gopi Girivaradhari
Yashodanandana Brajana Randana Yashodanandana Brajana
Jana
Yashodanandana Brajana Randana
Nandana Prajana Ranjana
Yashodanatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna
Krishna Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Akshita. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, now Anshita's turn. Radhika Mataji? No, okay. What happened?
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava.
Hare Krishna Pada.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhav, Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Baladeva, Jaya Subhadramai, Jaya Jaya Jagannath, Jagannath, Balade, Jaya Jaya Subhadra, Nita Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nita Gaura, Hari Bol. Thank you, Ashita. That was nice. If you want to sing any classical song, you can sing.
Vrindavana Padu. You can sing Vrindavana.
Maharaj is not here.
Any Vaishnava song, Mataji, or any song you?
Any song she knows, that one she can sing. She learns classical, no?
Yes, Mataji. Chakrama Padu.
No, I don't sing.
Padu.
We have only 2 minutes, okay? You
Yeah, yeah. Just one step.
start.
Chakrama.
Chakrama, Hari Chakrama, Chakrama, Hari Chakrama, Vakramaina, Danujula Vakalimpavo, Chakrama, Hari Chakrama, Om Namo Sudarshanaya, Om Namo Sudarshanaya, Om Namo Sudarshanaya, Om Namo Sudarshanaya. Chutti chutti patalamu jocchi Hiranyakshuni chattalu chirina Chakrama Pattida Shri Haricheta Payaka ఈ జగములు ఒట్టుకొని కవగదవో ఓ చక్రమా చక్రమా హరి చక్రమా వాక్రమైన ధనుజుల బక్కలింపవో చక్రమా హరి చక్రమా ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ.
Is that okay, Mataji? She can sing one more stanza, or Maharaj is there?
Maharaj is not there, Mataji.
She can sing one more stanza?
Yeah. వెరచి బ్రహ్మాదులు వేద మంత్రముల నీవు రట్లు కొనియాడేరు చక్రమా అరిమురి తిరువేంకట ద్రీషో వీదుల తొరవులు మెరయుదు ఓ చక్రమా చక్రమా హరి చక్రమా వక్రమైన
ధనుజుల వక్కలింపవో చక్రమా హరి చక్రమా. ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ, ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ, ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ, ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ. పానుకుని ధనుజుల బలు కిరీటమనుల సానల ధీరిన ఓ చక్రమా నానా జీవముల ప్రాణములో గాచి ధర్మముని నిలుపగదవో ఓ చక్రమా చక్రమా హరి చక్రమా. వక్రమైన ధనుజుల వక్రలింపవో చక్రమా హరి చక్రమా. ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ, ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ, ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ, ఓం నమో సుదర్శనాయ.
Thank you, Jipu.
Thank you.
Yes, Mataji, she's done.
Thank you, Anshita. That was very nice singing. So I think Maharaj has not joined yet. On
Shilya.
some problem, so we should continue our chanting. Okay. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaurava
Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re
Hare Ram
Shani
Hare
Shani Re Re
Ram
Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram
Hare
Ram Ram He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram 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 He Re Re Shani Shani Re Re Ram He Ram 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 Re 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 Shani Shani Re Re Ram Re Ram 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 Re 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 Shani Shani Re Re Ram Re Ram 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 Re 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 Shani Shani Re Re Ram Re Ram 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 Re Re Re
Gadadhar Shivasati Gaurabhaktavinda
Ram Ram Re 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 Shani Shani Re Re Ram Re Ram 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 Re 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 Shani
Hare Krishna Hare
Shani Re
Krishna
Re Ram Re Ram Ram Ram
Hare
Re
Ram
Re
Hare
Re
Ram
Shani Shani Re
Hare Krishna
Ram Re Ram Ram Re 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 Shani Shani Re Re Ram Re Ram 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 Re 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 Shani Shani Re Re Ram Re Ram 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 Re 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 Shani Shani Re Hare Ram Re Ram 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 Re 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 Shani Shani Re Re Ram Re Ram 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 Re 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 Shani Shani Re
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to Sangha conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj to enlighten us on the Bhugarbha topic of glories of Bhugarbha Goswami. So, welcome to the call, Maharaj. I will hand over the call to you now. Hare Krishna.
Umagyantimirandosya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksuunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Padati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi
Pastyatya sitarane. Vanchakalpa tarubhischa. Kripa sindhu vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Bhugarbha Goswami and also Kashivara Pandit both disappeared on the same day today. But we find that combing the Vaishnava literatures, and this is complete, there is not a lot of information on Bhugarbha Goswami. We know practically nothing about his activities, except that he was a close friend of Lokanath Das Goswami, who also we find very little, if anything, about his life and activities. What we know is Bhugarbha Goswami was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, and closest companion, in fact they say they were inseparable, is Lokanath Das Goswami. Excuse me. In the Sri Radha Gokulananda temple in Vrindavan, the Samadhi Mandir of Bhugarbha Goswami exists, along with the Samadhi Mandir of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It's in the courtyard there. And we know that Gokulananda Didi was established by Lokanath Das Goswami. As I mentioned, the information is nothing about his life. Chaitanya Charitamrita says that in his identity and from Krishna Lila, he was Prema Manjari. And he disappeared on this day, which is the fourth day of the bright moon fortnight of the month of Kartik. And that's all we have on Bhugarbha Goswami. We can speak a little bit about Kashivara Pandit, which is a lot more information, which is also today's disappearance day. Kashivara Goswami was a brahmachari, and it says that he was Krishna's servant. His name was, in previous Leela, he was actually a gopi. Let me see, what is the name here? I have it, it's mentioned here. I'll have to do some research to find out Kashivara's. But interesting, Kashivara was born in the village of Chaitra in the district of Hooghly, and his father was Vasudev Bhattacharya, and he came in the Vaishya Gotra. He was also had the title of Chowdhury. He was a disciple of Ishwara Puri. In other words, he was Lord Chaitanya's godbrother. And also Govinda was also Lord Chaitanya's godbrother. Ishwara Puri, after the disappearance of Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri had, sometime after that, had instructed both Govinda and Kashivara Pandit to go and serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, it's not the etiquette, nor is it permissible for a god brother to become a servant of their god brother. In other words, god brothers don't become personal servants of their own god brothers. They may do service out of their own goodwill, sweet will, their own desire, but as a formal thing, one cannot make one's god brother their servant. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received the message that Govinda, who came first, and Kashivara followed, were coming to assist him in his personal service, because that was the instruction of Ishwarapuri. Lord Chaitanya became a little bit disturbed and also somewhat averse to the idea, knowing it was against the etiquette to accept one's god brother as one's personal servant. So he went to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya for some advice. Of course, the Lord knows, but still, playing the role of a perfect disciple, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and presented the problem. Bhattacharya agreed, yes, it is against scriptural statements to accept one's god brother as one's personal assistant. It's the same with god sisters, they can't do that either. And to accept one's god sister as one's personal servant and vice versa. In other words, personal servants or personal assistants have to come in the realm of disciples or people who are not in the category of god brothers or god sisters. So Bhattacharya, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, yes, it's correct, but there's another injunction, which is the instructions of the spiritual master, which is a higher principle. So accepting the higher principle, you should accept the fact that they have come on the order of your Guru Maharaj Ishwarapuri. And so based on that, Lord Chaitanya accepted that. Now Govinda, we know, was his personal servant and used to do a lot of the menial things to carry out. He would prepare Lord Chaitanya's bed. He would arrange for prasadam. He would do all the little services that was there for. But Kashivar was a little different. Kashivar was a powerful, very strong personality. And his presence was quite noticeable. In other words, he was a big person and very strong. So one of the services that he had, which was an important service, is that when Lord Chaitanya would go, people would sometimes crowd around and make it difficult for Lord Chaitanya to pass, sometimes going to the Jagannath temple when the Lord wanted to see Jagannath. People would make it difficult, and they would always running up to him, touching his feet or doing something, and that obstructed his passage. So Kashivara was there. We also call him the bodyguard. Srila Prabhupada had one also. He had a few different bodyguards with that. And that happens sometimes with the spiritual master. They have to. I know a couple of my god brothers who have good bodyguards because it's required. Otherwise, it becomes difficult. And sometimes bodyguards are there to keep away inimical persons who want to harm the spiritual master. We have an example of one time Prabhupada was coming out of the airport and he was walking with a small group of his disciples on his way to his vehicle. And there was one person who was really, I guess, against Prabhupada. So he wanted to do some harm to Prabhupada. So he started to run real fast and he was going to crash into Srila Prabhupada on the run. Just at the last minute, Prabhupada's bodyguard noticed this person coming and he blocked his way and the person ran into the bodyguard. And of course, he fell away. So yeah, we had even examples of sometimes people would try to do harm to Srila Prabhupada or cause him difficulties. So like that. So Kashivar was the bodyguard of Mahaprabhu, like that. And he did his service well. Let me see here. He would also serve, he was one of the 7 persons, who would serve Mahaprasadam to the devotees at the Rath Yatra Kirtan. The others were Sri Damodar, Jagadananda, Damodar, Gopinath, Baninath, and Shankar. He also participated in the Lord's Leelas. He was present when the Lord went to the Kirtan house of Sridhar with Kirtan and drank from his iron pot. When the Lord went to see Sridhar, and of course he was present with other pastimes. It's mentioned here. I know it is. I can't seem to find it in this particular book that I'm reading from here, but it's mentioned who he is in Krishna Lila. Let me see if I can find it. He is actually a gopi in Krishna Lila. Seems somehow it has escaped my ability to find. Okay. He is a Saki called Sheshi Reka. He became one of Mahaprabhu's servants. So he was Sheshi Reka in Krishna Lila. So these are some of the stories that we have. And mostly you find Kashivar was always in the role of serving prasadam to the devotees or doing the work of a bodyguard. Many times this was necessary. He would have to, make way by making sure people didn't crash. It said one time when Lord Chaitanya was doing kirtan, people were coming, so they had to form circles around Lord Chaitanya, 3 solid circles of devotees locking hands with each other around Lord Chaitanya with spacing in between each of the circles. I had a personal experience of that at Jagannath Puri in the year 2006 when we were there for the Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra. And we were there with Indradumna Maharaj, with Radhanath Swami, with, what's his name, Sri Prahlad, and others. And we were doing kirtan in the middle. I remember it was the temperature Fahrenheit was 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was so hot. We were doing kirtan, and the devotees had made 3 circles around us so we could continue with the kirtan because the crowds, and it was not easy, the crowds kept trying to break the circles and crashing through. So many times there was a lot of pushing. But we find that that's the way it is sometimes, that people just want to come and either join the kirtan or touch your feet or do something. Mahaprabhu had that problem. Therefore, Kashivar performed a very important service for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these 2 persons, Bhugarbha Goswami and Kashivar Goswami, today is their disappearance day in the month of Kartik. Like that. To hear about the glories of the great souls is to glorify the Lord in the best possible way. The more we hear about the glories of those who are serving the Lord and have made their life dedicated to that service, then we're actually honoring the Lord in the best possible way. As the Lord personally says himself, one who says he's my servant is not my servant, and one who says he's the servant of my servant is actually my servant. So to become the servant of the Lord means become servant of the Lord's devotees who are fixed in serving him. And of course, Srila Prabhupada has extended this principle to its complete understanding, where he would say that the more you become the servant of the devotees, the more you become recognized by Krishna. And he would say, Das, Das, Anudas, 100 times removed. So our position is to serve. And we are, Jiver Surupai Krishna and Nityadas, as the Shastras clearly point out that there's no other identity of the living entity than the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead eternally. That eternal position is never overshadowed by anything else, although when we come to the material world, we forget about that. And therefore, we take up service to so many things in this material world, and we become expert at those things, and sometimes forget or neglect our service to the Supreme Lord. But that is the most important thing. But as we mentioned, service to the Supreme Lord reaches its perfection through service of the devotees. Just like when Mahaprabhu was, he wanted to, well, actually, it was King Prataparudra, who was the king at the time when Lord Chaitanya was in Jagannath Puri. He was a very, not only pious king, but he was also a devotee of the Lord. So much so that he was always hankering for the association of Lord Chaitanya. And as the Chaitanya Charitamrita very detailedly describes, many times he tried to get the association of Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Chaitanya was very strict as a sannyasi, and he would say, if a sannyasi associates with worldly people, he becomes fallen. And then he quoted one verse in that relationship. So it was very difficult and practically impossible, although he tried through Nityananda, he tried through Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to get the association of Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya would not grant that association. But then there was a plan that during the Rath Yatra, that Sarvabhauma would get the chance to see the Lord. So Sarvabhauma, I'm sorry, not Sarvabhauma, I'm sorry, but King Prataparudra would get to see the Lord. So he was the actual person who started through the tradition which we follow today, is that when the carts were there with Lord Jagannath, he took a broom and started sweeping the front part of the cart. And then, of course, he swept for quite a long time. And of course, that's followed today in our Rath Yatra programs and even around the world. We find that humble service really endeared Prataparudra to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya noticed that. And he gave King Prataparudra a special mercy that he didn't give to anyone else. And during that Rath Yatra ceremony, Lord Chaitanya divided his devotees into 7 groups with kirtan leaders in each group and kirtan dancers, or leaders, dancers in the kirtan in each group. So there was, in every kirtan, it is understood there should be a lead singer and a lead dancer. So, and Mahaprabhu performed some mystic power during that kirtan, something that only 2 people could see. And that was that Mahaprabhu was dancing in all 7 groups at the same time. And of course, everyone was seeing that he was dancing in the group that they were in. So each group were thinking, well, how fortunate we are to have the association of Lord Chaitanya. He is dancing in our group. But actually, he had expanded himself into 7 and was dancing in each of the 7 groups. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya could see that. The Lord gave him special vision to be able to see his transcendental pastimes of appearing in 7 groups at the same time performing kirtan. And of course, one other person, Lord Nityananda, also could see that. And Lord Nityananda said to Sarvabhauma, to King Prataparuja, you are very fortunate to have be able to see this darshan, very rare darshan. After the Ratha Yatra had commenced and the Lord had reached the Gundicha temple, Lord Chaitanya went into the Tota Gopinath gardens the gardens of, near the temple to rest. The Lord was very, very exhausted after dancing in kirtan for hours. So he went to rest and he lay down. Well, no, he didn't lay down, but he sat down with his legs straight out. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to King Prataparuja, here is your chance. So taking off his royal garments and putting on very simple clothes in white dress, he came. And he came where Lord Chaitanya was, and he started to massage the legs of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was so tired that he didn't even recognize or even try to recognize who was doing it. And then he started to sing that famous song, Tava Katam Ritam Tapta Jivanam Itiri Samritam. Song is a verse from the 10th canto, which glorifies how great the devotees of the Lord are, that they sacrifice everything in order to show mercy to the conditioned souls. It's a beautiful verse spoken by the gopis. And so King Prataparuja started to sing that beautiful, beautiful song. That song became famous in ISKCON by Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, who recorded it and would sing it many times in kirtan and in bhajan. Tava katam ritam tapt jivanam iti. I can't remember the exact verse. It's in the 10th canto, I believe 29th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he was massaging the legs. And then after some time, Lord Chaitanya became Kavidiritam Kamadhat Taparam Tavakatam Mitam Tapta Jivanam Kaviviridam Kamasapaham Sravana Mangalam Shrima Attatam Buriganatiye Burida Jana. Translation: the nectar of your words and the descriptions, let me see here, of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in the material world. These narrations transmitted by learned sages eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-9. So this was the verse that was sung by King Prataparuja. When Lord Chaitanya heard that, he said, "Who are you? Who are you?" He was still like what they say. Lord Chaitanya would manifest 3 different types of consciousness. Internal consciousness, where he was completely absorbed in Krishna Lila. External consciousness, when he was functioning on the external level. half internal and half external. So now he's speaking, who are you? And King Prataparudra responded in such a wonderful way that the Lord became very inclined to give him his complete mercy. And he said, I am the most humble servant of the servant of the servant of your servants. And that's how he answered Lord Chaitanya. When Lord Chaitanya heard that, the Lord was very, very pleased. So we see from this particular pastime with King Prataparudra and Lord Chaitanya, although he couldn't get the association of the Lord, he earned the association of the Lord by his humble demeanor and his loving service. So that pleased Lord Chaitanya very, very much. Like that. So the point that we are coming to with in relationship to this particular story is how dear one becomes to the Lord in the mood of the humble servant of the Lord by serving the Vaishnavas. That's our position, actually, servant. We cannot be anything else. Even the materialists who appear and act like they are servant of no one are always serving something, either their society, their country, their family. As Prabhupada would go on and say, even if they don't have anyone to serve, they take up a pet dog or some animal to serve. And of course, they're serving their own minds also. That's another form of service. So the living entity is by nature a servant. And when we act in that role, we are actually reaching the stage of perfection. In other words, when we try to become master, controller, then we find ourselves always struggling and difficult. But when we are in the mood of service, and especially in the mood of serving those who serve the Lord, and then we find that this resonates and we feel peaceful, happy, satisfied, and have many opportunities then we can actually chant the holy names of the Lord in this mood. As Lord Chaitanya is famous for saying the Shikshastikam prayers, the only prayers that he ever wrote down. The third verse of the Shikshastikam prayers is considered to be the king of all verses. Trinadapi Sanichena Dayori Vasahishnuna Amanina Mamana Dena Kirtaniya Sadarahi. The last line, Kirtaniya Sadarahi. Sada means always. When one who practices these principles, humility, tolerance, pridelessness, and respect for others, then one can chant the holy names constantly. The holy name becomes easily available to such a person who cultivates the mood of this verse. And as Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that one should take this verse and string it on the necklace of the holy name and wear it as one's ornament. So he takes the verse even farther by saying, one who is practicing this becomes their ornament. An ornament is a object that is noticed by everyone. When you wear, sometimes ladies, they wear these beautiful brooches around their neck, some necklace, or maybe they wear some flower garlands. Devotees wear flower. In other words, if you have an outstanding ornament, everyone notices it. So the ornament of a Vaishnava is his mood of service, which is glorified here by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so in order to get the mercy of the Lord, this is the formula. And of course, all of Lord Chaitanya's devotees were very much in that mood. They were always serving the Lord and serving those who were serving the Lord. And although Kashivara came from a very respectable family and was the god brother of Lord Chaitanya, he never said, well, I'm the god brother of Lord Chaitanya. How can I serve Lord Chaitanya? No, he took the instructions of Ishwar Puri on his head and made it his life and soul to serve Lord Chaitanya in the role of being his personal bodyguard. Okay, so this is a few things about Kashivara Pandit, and as we mentioned, there is hardly anything, very little about Bhugarbha Goswami. If you go to Vrindavan and you go to Radha Gokulananda temple, you can see that I think there's 3 Samadhi mandirs in the courtyard. I know Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Samadhi mandir is there, along with Bhugarbha Goswami. I think maybe also Lokanath Das Goswami's Samadhi mandir, because Lokanath Das Goswami and Bhugarbha Goswami, sometimes they say they were like one soul and 2 bodies. They were inseparable, close friends in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so this is what we'll talk about today. And so, yeah, the Gokulananda temple, let's see. Yeah. Samadhi of Lokanath Das Goswami, and anything else in there? Let's see, it also mentions Samadhi of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and the Samadhi of Ganga Narayan Chakravarti also is there, like that. I'm pretty sure Bhugarbha Goswami's Samadhi is also there. Let's see. In fact, I'm quite sure, but go ahead, keep going down the list, maybe you'll find more. Samadhi of It's a very, yeah. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. It's in the Radha Damodar temple. Okay, that was my mistake. It's in Sri Sri Radha Damodar temple. Okay. It's also near Rupa Goswami. Okay, thank you. So, anyone would like to comment or pose a question?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to you. I understand what you mentioned, that it's very important to serve the devotees. And just this question came into my mind, that how should we relate in our service to different type of devotees, because it may be based on spiritual level, but also based on position or on certain type of relationship.
Okay, bring up the verse 4834 from Bhagavatam. Post it on the screen. Whoever's doing the share screen, post that verse 4834. What does it say? Someone can read?
I can read it. Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate toward him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world.
Mm-hmm. So we also apply that like that. So someone who is more advanced, we hear from them and offer service. Someone who is equal, we make friends and share Krishna consciousness. Someone who is in a lesser position, we try to raise them up by inspiring them in their practice of Krishna consciousness. That's a general principle, but you can serve anybody at any time according to the situation that arises.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Sundari Radhika Maharaj. Very nice to hear from you after a long time. And it's nice to see the details of Prataparudra's pastime with Lord Chaitanya. How Lord Chaitanya liked the fact that he wants to be the servant of servant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was King Prataparudra. Yeah, yeah, it's the best in all positions. But the world works in the opposite way, where it teaches you your success is by how much you can be master and not how much you become servant. So, and that is ingrained. And with the competitive spirit of the material energy pushing us in different areas of life, we're always competing for things and for positions. When we come to Krishna consciousness, we find that it's a whole different change of attitude based on the mindset that we are servant. We can't be anything else but servant. When Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's Maharaj was asked, he was asked this question twice, and he answered it twice in two different ways. He was asked, how many disciples do you have, Maharaj? He says, I don't have any disciples. They're all my masters. I learned something from each of them. When he was asked again, how many disciples do you have, Maharaj? He said, well, I have 4, 2 arms and 2 legs. They carry out my orders. So he put a little humor in that one. So a devotee never says, when someone asks you how many disciples or how many servants you are, you always say, Prabhupada also. Prabhupada said, he said this to his disciples. He said, I'm seeing all of you as the representatives of my spiritual master. Because he has given me this service to spread Krishna consciousness around the world, he has also assisted me in my service by sending all of you to assist me. Therefore, you are all representatives of my spiritual master. So in other words, he was serving his spiritual master by serving his disciples. That was Prabhupada's vision for his disciples.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Where's your daughter? She's here.
She's there, Maharaj. She was just bathing the deities.
She's hiding now. Huh?
I'll call her to come.
She's always asking me questions.
Yes. Oh, don't know where she is.
That's okay. Just tell her I offer my respects.
Thank you, Maharaj, for being so kind to her and to us.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. This is Shyamagori here. Thank you so much for the wonderful class, and it's very nice to hear about the personalities. They appeared and disappeared on their day. If we remember, then we will, make some progress in our spiritual life. So thank you so much, Maharaj. Very nice.
Thank you for organizing this wonderful opportunity to speak about the Lord and the devotees. It's very rare we get chances to speak in such, it's such a nice audience. So it's our good fortune. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very, very nice class. Hare Krishna, very nicely you have explained everything about the pastimes and position of a servant of the servant is the best position for all us.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Please bless me that I can come to that stage.
You may have achieved, but in your saying, being humble, you're presenting to us like that. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank
for
you,
the appreciation.
Mother Komadaki. Komadaki.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu Maharaj. Very, very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, devotees. Anybody has any question or want to say something to Maharaj? They can go ahead. We have few minutes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for this wonderful session on Prataprudra King. I always have this question about him that, he was so much devoted to Lord Chaitanya, but Lord tested him so much, like till at the end, a king sent so many devotees, Bhum Bhattacharya, everyone was talking about the king to Lord. And Lord gave him darshan at Rath Yatra. So I wanted to ask you, like Lord knowing himself, the heart of king already, how come and why was king tested so much?
Well, the Lord was following the etiquette. He didn't want to meet him because he's a sannyasi and he didn't want to associate with worldly people. Being in the role of the king, the Lord even composed a verse based on that. But at the same time, the Lord was making the arrangement at the right time. If you want things to immediately happen, then you find yourself in difficulty, both in material life and in spiritual life. One of the qualities of a devotee is they endeavor with determination and patience. One of the main principles taught by Rupa Goswami is learning how to be patient and giving our utmost in devotional service and waiting for the mercy of the Lord to descend. The mercy of the Lord will descend by our enthusiasm and our determination, but in executing devotional service according to the instructions of our spiritual.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. That was very useful. Thank you.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Guru Maharaj. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. All glories to Your Holiness. Thank you so much for illustrating this beautiful example of Prataparudra's mood of being a very humble servant, which captured the Lord's heart. My question is, service to the devotees is a very exalted position, and sometimes we may not be so fortunate as to have the association of Vaishnavas or to be with them. What if we are far away and we're just going to work and we are associating mostly with non-devotees? How we can still maintain that internal mood that even though this person in front of me is a non-devotee, somehow I have to serve him or her also, and then what form that service should take?
Respect, gentlemanness, ladylikeness, giving respects to others. That's Bhakti Vinod Thakur has given that. Prabhupada also said, devotee is an ideal gentleman, gentle lady. In other words, they give respects to all. That is the principle of interaction with the world. You give respects to all living entities according to the situation. And respect is shown according to the situation. It's not always shown in the same way. But that's the mood, respect. As you want respect, you should also give respect. Of course, Lord Chaitanya said we should give respect, but not ask for respect.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for bringing out that point. Hare Krishna.
And of course, if you have the opportunity, you can speak something or do something that will communicate Krishna consciousness to them. Look for the opportunity and see if you can tell them about Krishna, tell them about the holy name, or just give some prasadam. Something. If you find yourself not able to do that because of circumstance, then we always give respects to all. That's all. Because everyone's respectable in the sense that Krishna resides in the heart of all living entities. In that way, we give respect. Some people, by their behavior and their position, are not respectable at all. But still, from afar, without associating directly, we keep that mood of respect in the sense that this person, although I would never associate because it would bring me down or cause me distress, still that person is part and parcel of Krishna. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Gavi Havi, what is it? Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahma Gavi Hastani Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshanaha. A sage sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So from one side to the other, the equal vision, samadarshan, means one sees all living entities not so much by the dress, but by their actual identity. But on the social and interpersonal levels, we act according to position. And in that position, acting, respect is the mood, like that.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the wonderful, wonderful class today.
Thank you.
I just feel so fortunate to be attending this session. And whatever you said in the class today about the mood of the devotee, and which has been exemplified through great acharyas and through great devotees, through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, it seems to be a very, very long way to go to bring such a big change in the consciousness. But then I was contemplating that in the association of great devotees like yourself, the path seems to be achievable. I really, really feel very fortunate to have this association. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you.
And we're all grateful, Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is the life of the Vaishnavas. Chaitanya was discussing with Ramananda Roy. He asked him, what is the greatest unhappiness? And Ramananda Roy was answering in the role of the teacher. And he said the greatest unhappiness is separation from the devotee.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine life without devotees now.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And of course, now we are restricted in our association, but whatever association we have, we should be grateful for that and take advantage of it by rendering service.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept respectful obeisances. Thank you so much for your wonderful nectarian class. I have a question on this verse, but this is not connected to the class. Is that okay to ask?
Of course.
Thank you, Maharaj. So, there are many verses like this. I'm asking forgiveness if there is this question is offensive to the Vedic scriptures or Guru Vargas. Mataji, can you go to the translation? There are many verses like this. This one I'm just saying about the example, and I was not able to answer this question when asked by someone. So the translation goes like this: their lotus-like faces extraordinarily beautiful, being decorated with saffron and newly grown kumkuma. The wives of the cowherd men hurried to the uh, house of Mother Yashoda with presentations in their hands. Because of natural beauty, the wives had full hips and full breasts, which moved as they hurried along. So we find many verses like this, and the question was: is this looks like too direct, and I'm not able to ask this, that it's not presented in a, one boy was asking that why is it presented like it looks like literature of mundane presentation. So what is our answer for this?
It's just describing the scene as it is, like that. Yeah, you'll find a lot of times it's mentioned, the beauty of a woman is mentioned in relationship to the situation that is there. So full hips, breasts, it talks about that in relationship to the gopis also. But this is just the beauty of a woman, that's all. It says the woman develop a natural feminine beauty with full hips and breasts because women, what's the next line down? In modern civilization do not live naturally, and so their bodies don't develop to natural fullness like that. So when you're healthy, happy, and you live a nice life, then your natural beauty doesn't get overshadowed by having a material body. So yeah, and Prabhupada's giving some purport describing the opposite. So this is Bhagavatam. This is natural life in contrast to a civilization that exploits women, that abuses women, that tries to take advantage of women for sensual stimulation or for sense gratification. So these are descriptions of the beauty of women. Natural beauty. Nowadays, people are not so beautiful because of the life they live. So they use all kinds of cosmetics and creams, this, that, in order to make themselves beautiful. Sometimes they spend money going to beauty shops. You know, you didn't hear so much about that in Krishna's Vrindavan. They went to a beauty parlor to get kind of fixed up so they could look good. Prabhupada, it's mentioned in some of the statements that the women would be out there early in the morning and they would be churning butter and doing chores, and they worked. And because they were working and enjoying their work as service, they were happy. And because you're happy, your body actually becomes an expression of that happiness. So your natural beauty starts to manifest like that. So their natural beauty is simply being described, that's all. And the setting by which the natural beauty is being described is Vrindavan. And the activities that the actual beauty is being described is devotional service. And that devotional service is their love for Mother Yasoda. They came to associate with and assist Mother Yasoda in her service. So one should not think, oh, the beautiful woman is something that we hide to describe something that is sensual. No, there is natural beauty there, and you can't deny that. So if this person has trouble, that means his mind is somewhat infected with the sensual descriptions, and he doesn't really see the actual picture of Vrindavan in all its beauty and naturalness. Baba said, women have lost their natural beauty, although they claim to be independent and advanced in material civilization. description of village women gives a clear example of the contrast between natural life and the artificial life of a society such, go on, continue to go down, such as the Western, whoops, I lost the whole thing now. Such as the Western countries where topless, bottomless beauty may be purchased, like in clubs and shops for advertisement. This says the word Taritam Jagmu indicates how happy the village women were to understand a mother who Yasoda had given birth to a wonderful child known as Krishna. So God has created everything perfect. And when we mess around with his perfection, then it becomes something ugly, or what we say, licentious.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. And also, I like this how Srila Prabhupada says the degraded nature of women being exploited at the present situation. And
it's like that all even with this so-called women's liberation. Prabhupada said women's liberation was created by men to break the chastity of women so they could use women for their sense gratification. Such as cheap labor and then of course for sensual enjoyment. Prabhupada goes into detail about this, and he even spoke to women reporters who came to him in Chicago about this. So exploitation is the principle of material life, whereas service is the principle of spiritual life.
thank you so much, Maharaj. Every Friday, you continue to give your very, very invaluable association, and your classes are very instructive and very clear, and so many. We don't have words to explain the effects of association of Vaishnava, but just we can humbly say thank you, and please accept our humble obeisances and give us your blessings so that we can follow your instructions, Maharaj.
Everything is coming by the mercy of Prabhupada. As Prabhupada used to say, people give me so much credit for spreading this Krishna consciousness, but I have no credit. All I know is I'm following the instructions of my spiritual master, and I'm trying to do it in the best possible way. He said, that's my credit. So he's teaching us, and this is also a principle for all of us. Our success in Krishna consciousness is the instructions of the spiritual master and the desire to carry them out. So thank you, but all glories to Srila Prabhupada. What else can we say? Because this is the natural understanding.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, go ahead.
Oh, Hare Krishna. I wanted to know if I could add a verse that we just read last night. We're reading, it's called The Description of the Kingdom of God, and it's from Canto 3, Chapter 15. Would it be all right with the Maharaj if I read the verse, because it's directly relating to the Mataji's question?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Canto 3, Chapter 15, and it's text number 20, and it's called The Description of the Kingdom of God. Text 20. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha travel in their airplanes made of lapis lazuli, emerald, and gold. Although crowded by their consorts, who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated to passion by their mirth and beautiful charms.
Yeah, Prabhupada also speaks that that because they have a higher taste, the higher taste is their love for Krishna, although they may associate with each other and both are beautiful, the men are beautiful, the women are beautiful, but there's no passion stimulated because there's a higher taste. Mhm. And the last line in the purport really gives, the final conclusion. In other words, there is enjoyment of the association of the opposite sex, but no sexual relationship. The residents of Vaikuntha have a better standard of pleasure, so there's no need of sex pleasure. So what is that verse? Let me think. What is that verse? Well, the translation is one who has a higher taste can give up the lower taste. You can't give up the lower taste unless you have the higher taste. So material pleasure is the higher taste, and spiritual pleasure is the lower taste, and spiritual pleasure. Param Disva Nivartante. Yeah. What is that verse again? Rasavar, oh yeah, Rasavarjam Raso Prasya Param Disva Nivartate. Visayan Vinivartante Niharasya Dehinam. Raso Varjam Raso Pyasya Param Disva Nivartante. 259 in the Bhagavad Gita. So you can't give up the lower taste because taste is life. Life means taste. So people are chasing after material taste. And sex life is the highest form of material taste in the material world. But that becomes puny, or what we say insignificant, in relationship to the taste of devotional service. So one cannot give up the attraction to the opposite sex unless one is fixed in attraction to Krishna, like that. So the whole world is going on with this material attraction, but devotees are developing attraction for Krishna and they're losing their attraction for the smaller attractions in this material world. In fact, what's his name? One great sadhu, Jamunacharya. Jamunacharya was a great acharya. He was the spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. And he enjoyed royal opulence as a king. In a debate when he was 12 years old, he won a part of a kingdom and became a king. As a king, he was quite licentious. And he was enjoying all kinds of material sense pleasure, especially sex life. After he became purified from that situation and attained self-realization, he writes one verse which Prabhupada speaks about all the time. I don't know where it's simply a verse from Jamunacharya's Stotra, I think it's Stotra Ratna by Jamunacharya, which says, now that I have engaged in devotional service unto your lotus feet, my Lord, when I think of sex life, my lips curl in disgust. And Prabhupada says, I spite upon it. He uses the word spite, meaning spit. In other words, one feels repugnant towards material sense gratification once they start to regularly taste the happiness of devotional service. So that is our goal, to get that higher taste, because if you don't get the higher taste, you have to taste something. And as long as that higher taste is not given, it becomes hard to resist material tastes. So one can somewhat refrain themselves. Yeah, there he is. Namaga Chitta Krishna Padara Vinda Navanava Rasa Damanu the Tamra Tamasi Taravadi bhakti narasangame samaryamane bhavati mukha vikarta stuti nisti vanam cha. And so there's the verse. So we have to get that higher taste. We have to go for the higher taste. Higher taste comes by devotional service. Higher taste comes by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Higher taste comes by serving the Vaishnavas. So Krishna consciousness is the higher taste. As we read from that verse from the 15th chapter, that although these personalities are surrounded by so much opportunities for sense gratification, they're not even interested. It becomes something that is not even noticeable. So this is the consciousness of one who's fixed in Krishna consciousness. They may be around sense objects, but they're not attracted to them. Yeah. I can tell you another story. Would you like to hear another one?
Yes, please.
Yes, Maharaj.
You sure? This is the life of Srila Prabhupada. So we know Srila Prabhupada is fixed in Krishna consciousness. He's transcendental to everything. And so one reporter to meet Prabhupada at the airport in New York when Prabhupada arrived, devotees becoming very enthusiastic, they brought a on for Prabhupada to sit on at the airport. So, of course, sometimes the devotees would act like that, wanting to serve Prabhupada. And it wasn't the actual protocol to bring a Vyasa-san to the airport, but they did. And since they did, Prabhupada sat on it. And then there were reporters, and he was taking questions. And so one reporter, he was feeling a little envious towards Prabhupada. And he couldn't restrain his envious nature. So in a very obvious way, he said, "Why do you have to sit on that fancy seat?" Now, Prabhupada could have answered that criticism in so many different ways. But he answered it in the most interesting way. And there were many other reporters there also. So he said, well, the difference between you and me is I can be in a room full of naked women and not be disturbed. And then all of his, the reporters' colleagues, they all started to laugh at the reporter. And what could he say? He was embarrassed. And because Prabhupada said it in such a way that it went right to the point. You know, Prabhupada didn't want to brag about himself, but he wanted to make a point that for the pure devotee spiritual master, you can't do enough to glorify that pure devotee spiritual master. And said that's the business of the disciples, always to figure out how to worship and honor their spiritual master. So when it came to Prabhupada, they were always thinking different ways to please Srila Prabhupada or glorify Prabhupada. So Prabhupada wanted to make a point. So, but the point was that, yeah, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service, the more that one sees this world, garbage. We're trying to reach that stage where we come to that point. None of us should claim we're on that stage. Prabhupada could, because Prabhupada was a Nitya Siddha, and he knew his position. He knew who he was. He knew why he came to this material world to do this work. But we, who are followers of Srila Prabhupada, shouldn't claim to be or even think we are on that level. We should be very careful in the association of the material energy, because even great devotees can fall down, even from a very high stage of bhakti. So a devotee is very aware that at any time I could fall down. Prabhupada also gave us a little instruction in that regard. One time he was sitting with his disciples and he said, I'm simply praying to Krishna that I don't fall down in my devotional service. So he was teaching us that we should always be in that mood, that please Krishna save me from the allurements of this material world. And if you worship Lord Nrsingadev specifically, Lord Nrsingadev gives you 3 benedictions through sincere worship. One, as he protects against material dangers. 2, he removes fruitive activities within the heart of the devotee. And 3, reveals material illusions. He destroys material illusions. So the objects of this material world who present itself as forms of enjoyment are simply material illusions. So by the mercy of Lord Nrsingadev, one can be able to overcome these illusions. But one still has to understand that whatever I can do in Krishna consciousness is simply the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of my spiritual master. But when it comes to the opposite sex, one should be very careful in that association, because even great devotees become victimized and sometimes act wrongly or sometimes even fall down. So that happens. So therefore, it says that one should never think themselves free from the allurements of material energy and should always be in the mood of praying that, please, my dear Lord, don't let me fall down. Don't let me become attracted. Because as soon as attraction develops, then the mind starts to change. When the mind starts to change, then one starts to forget about Krishna and starts to contemplate the objects of the senses. And as the verse says in the Bhagavad Gita, Dayatam Vishayam Pumsam Teishat Sagat Sanjayate Teishat Sangat Sajayate Kama Kama Kroda Vijayate Kroda Bhavati Samoham Samoham Shriti Vribrava Shriti Brahmsa Burinasa Burinasa Panashyati. Panashyati means fall down. So Dayate Visayam Pumsam, one who contemplates material sense objects. From that, lust comes. From lust, anger. From anger, delusion. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is lost, when memory, when delusion of forgetfulness is there, intelligence is lost. When intelligence is lost, and one falls down again into the material world, Panashyati. Yeah, 262 and 263. Go 2 is the first verse. Yeah. And the verse before that, 262. While contemplating a person develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust arises. From lust, anger. From anger, complete delusion. From delusion, bewilderment. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. Intelligence is lost, one falls down in the material world pool. So intelligence is our protecting factor. As Rupa Goswami explains, the connection between the soul and Krishna is through the intelligence. So the intelligence means to apply the instructions of the spiritual master in each and every situation. And that becomes our driving force, our vision for activity, and our protection in this material world. So sometimes devotees will say, well, I'm not so intelligent, what do I do? Well, Prabhupada would say, then get some intelligence. Go find someone and get it. Prabhupada would say like that. Or he would say, intelligence means to understand the instructions of the spiritual master and understand how to apply them. Then one is on the platform of intelligence. So thank you from that verse from the 15th chapter. It's one of the most beautiful chapters in the Bhagavatam, describing the kingdom of God. It's so descriptive of Vaikuntha. Okay, anything else?
Thank you, Maharaj. Very nice discussion. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. If no one has any questions for Maharaj, we can end now. Let's pay obeisances to Maharaj and all the devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. My obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna
Dinabandhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
And your
Thank you
good
very
wife
much,
there.
Gurudev. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Now it's
Hare Krishna, Danvat Pranam. Thank you, Guru
9
Maharaj.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. This was so enlightening. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj, for a very beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Thank you
Glories
very
to
much,
Srila.
Guru Maharaj.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Gurudev. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
So it's already late. It's 9 o'clock. So we will do our parikrama tomorrow. Is that okay? Padma Saki Mataji.
Sorry, Mataji. Maybe I asked, went for a long time.
No, Mataji, we will do tomorrow. No
Yes,
problem.
Mataji, we can do tomorrow. No problem. We can
Yeah,
club
we are
to
doing virtual. That's the benefit of virtual parikrama. In actual parikrama, you get behind and you miss the class and you don't know the, significance of the place even though you visit it. But this virtual parikrama, you can hear the recording again and you can do the next day. So that's our benefit. It's all Krishna's mercy. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Kupas.
Mataji. Hare Krishna. Shyamagori Mataji. It's very, very true for